Let us pray. We give thanks to God for the rich heritage of this province as found in our people. We pray that native-born Albertans and those who have come from other places may continue to work together to preserve and enlarge the precious heritage called Alberta. Amen.
Introduction of visitors. Presenting petitions. Reading and receiving petitions.
Member for Edmonton Meadowlark.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would ask that the clerk read and receive the petition that I presented on Friday.
To the Honourable, the Legislative Assembly of Alberta and Legislature assembled. Wherefore your petitioners humbly pray that your Honourable Assembly take whatever steps necessary to impress upon the Government of Canada the importance of not applying any proposed national sales tax upon music lessons in Alberta. Presenting reports by standing and special committees. Notices of motions. Introduction of bills.
Member for Edmonton Calder.
Request leave to introduce Bill 244, an act to amend the Assured Income for the Severely Handicapped Act. This bill will prevent the provincial government from deducting Canada Pension Plan disability benefits from individuals on the Assured Income for the Severely Handicapped.
The honourable member for Edmonton Calder has moved first reading of Bill 244, an act to amend the Assured Income for the Severely Handicapped Act. Those in favour of first reading, please say aye. Opposed, please say no. Motion carries.
Bill number 244, an act to amend the Assured Income for the Severely Handicapped Act, introduced by the honourable member, Ms. Melsness, is now read a first time. Tabling returns and reports.
The Minister of Culture, Multiculturalism.
Mr. Speaker, I have with me 4 copies of the annual report 8788 of the Alberta Foundation for the Performing Arts, which I'd like to table with the House.
Behind you. Member for Edmonton Mill Woods.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to table 4 copies with the Assembly on behalf of my constituent, Mr. Spencer, regarding his protest at the Legislature.
The Minister of Economic Development and Trade, followed by the member for Calgary Foothills.
Mr. Speaker, it's my pleasure, sir, to introduce to you and through you to members of the Legislative Assembly a group of 48 students from Woodbridge Farm School in the constituency of Sherwood Park. They're joined by Mr. Neil Horn and Mrs. Linda McKechnie. They're seated in the members' gallery, and I would ask if they would rise and receive the warm welcome of the Legislative Assembly.
To the table officers. Member for Calgary Foothills.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to introduce to you and through you to the members of the Assembly a very long and dear friend of ours. He's seated in your gallery. He's the former member of this legislature from Calgary Northwest, Dr. Stan Casson. I'd ask him to rise and receive the wishes of the Assembly.
Edmonton Calder.
It's my pleasure today to introduce to you and to members of the Assembly 3 individuals who are all board members of Disabilities Unlimited. This is a group that advocates on behalf of persons with disabilities and works towards enhancing their quality of life. I would ask that Bruce Miller, Audrey Lee, and Roberta Duvall stand and receive the warm welcome of the Assembly.
Edmonton Meadowlark.
Mr. Speaker, it's my pleasure to introduce to you and to members of the Legislative Assembly 25 students from Rio Terrace School. They are accompanied today by their teacher, Mrs. Rachel Anderson, and by parents, Mrs. Doreen Schneider, Mrs. Marlene Pollard, and Mrs. Kathy Polak. I would ask that they all stand and receive the welcome of the Legislative Assembly.
Then the member for Edmonton Mill Woods.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to introduce to you and the other members of the Assembly this afternoon a group of 52 students from Wine School in the constituency of Edmonton Mill Woods. They're accompanied today by their teachers, Mr. Glenn Sharples and Mr. Bob Fu, and parent Joanne McMillan. I'd ask them now to stand in the gallery and receive the warm welcome of the House.
Ministerial statements. Oral question period.
Speaker, to the Treasurer, the man with rose-colored glasses, Magic Johnson, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Fraser Institute, the ideological godfather of the Conservative Party, released a report yesterday that seemed to contradict this government's claim that Albertans are the lowest taxed citizens in Canada. Mr. Speaker, we can quibble about what they're including and all the rest of it, and I agree with them, the Treasurer, that royalty should not be included. But say that as it may, there are a lot of other taxes that they're including. I think the point that they're making is that Albertans, average Alberta families, are taxed and taxed heavily in this country, Mr. Speaker. Here. My question then to the Treasurer, will the Treasurer now finally admit that average Alberta families are paying too much in taxes in this province?
Right.
Mr. Speaker, of course, the fact that anybody pays taxes may well argue that you're paying far too much tax, and I'd be one who would start there. But, Mr. Speaker, to argue more fully that in comparison to the context of the member's question, that Alberta is paying more taxes under the so-called Walker Institute approach is in fact wrong. And there's no doubt, Mr. Speaker, that the Walker Institute, the Fraser Institute, Dr. Walker, used many of the similar approaches used by the opposition in their press releases: faulty analysis, poor information, and misleading statements, Mr. Speaker. And so I can understand, Mr. Speaker, why the member from Norwood has adopted the position taken by the Fraser Institute, because it follows the same kind of approach that he would take. Now, usually I give the member more credit for an analysis than, in fact, what he's displayed here today. You know, and he's already admitted, Mr. Speaker, that the Walker analysis, the Fraser Institute, is faulty because, of course, they're including the royalty income in the calculation of taxes. Now, everybody knows, Mr. Speaker, if you were to sell your house, you would not be generating income. You'd be selling an asset, Mr. Speaker. Even the member from Norwood with a socialist background probably would recognize that if it came to filing his taxes. Now, Mr. Speaker, at the same time, Mr. Speaker, the Fraser Institute includes such things as the average taxes paid in the province based on average incomes. Now, just think about that for a minute, Mr. Speaker. We know in Alberta, as a result of the unemployment statistics here just last week, that more people are employed at higher average salaries in Alberta than anywhere else. So if you apply all the average taxes, essentially federal taxes, Mr. Speaker, to a person working in Alberta, obviously you're going to have an average higher taxes. Now, Mr. Speaker, the facts are clear, and we have put the facts on the table in our budget address, and I certainly refer all members to that analysis showing quite clearly Albertans have the lowest personal taxes in Canada and no sales tax, and in combination with all other provinces has the absolute lowest tax regime in Canada. Be not misled by the statements of others, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, everybody always has a faulty analysis. Everybody else in Canada but this Treasurer, Mr. Speaker. Isn't that amazing? He's the only one with the truth, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, I agree. Taking off the royalties, and I already said that. But the report also showed that average Alberta family will this year pay 45% of its income in taxes, Mr. Speaker, and that's the truth. And taxes have gone up 9% from last year, while household income has gone up 7%. Add that on to inflation, and we're paying a lot more average Alberta families. Right. Mr. Speaker, my question to this Treasurer is this. The government promised during the election that taxes would go down. In reality, taxes have gone up. When can we look forward to taxes coming down as they promised in the last election?
Can't trust them.
How soon they forget, Mr. Speaker. I love to draw the members' attention to the July '88 announcement when, in fact, we did reduce the temporary flat tax, Mr. Speaker, And you've heard all Albertans understand clearly the Premier's position that he would like to see taxes go down and would look at the first opportunity to remove the balance of that flat tax, Mr. Speaker. Now, that's a view shared by the Conservative government, because we know that we want to put disposable income back in the hands of Albertans, maintaining their spending power, and give them the rewards to invest in this province, Mr. Speaker. It's a very simple formula. We in Alberta have identified it, and we're going to stick to that mandate. Now, Mr. Speaker, I'm glad to see the member from Norwood associate himself with this Institute's report, because, you know, the experts and economists across Canada laugh at this. They say this is a public relations event, not a serious academic review. Everyone knows, Mr. Speaker, that this report is fraught with difficulties, fraught with misinformation, and I'm glad to see the member of Norwood has identified in its thinking process with the same kind of misinformation that's given in this report, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, everybody that disagrees with the government, Mr. Speaker, including the Conference Board and every other institute, are fraught with inaccuracies, Mr. Speaker. But the reality is, to Alberta families, the question's coming. Boomer's going to get excited. He's going to have a heart attack over there. Mr. Speaker.
We don't want anyone to have a heart attack, but I'd sure like to hear a supplementary question, please.
Mr. Speaker, my question is, in view of the fact that taxes have gone up, and that the government deliberately misled the people during the election, Mr. Speaker, because they said taxes would go down. Well, can we at least go to this? In the next budget, will this treasurer now unequivocally state that taxes will not go up on Alberta average families? Will he say that now?
Go ahead, Dick.
Speaker, they may as well ask me about 2025, Mr. Speaker. They know that we have a very good fiscal plan here before the Assembly, which is now being debated, and they know that there's very little fault with that plan, Mr. Speaker, including the fact that there are no income tax increases. Mr. Speaker, we have here in the last couple of weeks the prime example, a member from Norwood, the member from Glengarry, who I now refer to as the Blues Brothers. You know, Mr. Speaker, it has to be dreary and dull and rainy and blue for these two people to be on their feet, spouting that kind of nonsense, Mr. Speaker. Everyone in Alberta knows that prosperity is here, province is on the return, investment levels are strong, more people employed than ever before, and clearly, the lowest taxes of any province in Canada, Mr. Speaker, right here in Alberta, and we're proud of that record, Mr. Speaker, and we stand by it.
Mr. Speaker, I knew it was raining outside, but I didn't know it'd be as windy in here. Mr. Speaker, my question is to the Minister of Energy, Mr. Speaker. Time and time again, it's been proven in this legislature and outside this legislature that this government cannot be trusted to stand up to Ottawa. I'm talking specifically about the budget. The Premier said it was okay. It was okay to reduce their deficit at the expense of Alberta's Treasury, Mr. Speaker. And in that budget, the early elimination of the Canadian Exploration and Development Incentive Program has probably cheated Alberta producers out of some $65 million, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the bill that ends this program was recently before a Commons committee in Ottawa looking at. That Commons committee asked this minister if he would come and talk to the committee about the impact on Alberta. Apparently, Mr. Speaker, this minister refused. And I want to ask the minister, why did this minister refuse to go to that committee when he could have made a strong, forceful case about how this was hurting Alberta and Alberta producers?
Mr. Speaker, let me first say that I have made a number of representations to Ottawa. I had the first opportunity to discuss the matter with Jake Epp on the telephone, the Minister of Energy, Mines and Resources. I expressed to him that, at that time, my concern with the expiration of the CDIP program. I subsequently confirmed in writing to Mr. Epp, Mr. Speaker, and to other Alberta MPs that I had a concern with the expiration of that program and the manner in which it was handled. I thereafter met with Mr. Epp in Weyburn, Saskatchewan last week, and along with the Minister of Energy and Mines for Saskatchewan, in a meeting in Weyburn, I at that time, Mr. Speaker, expressed my concerns on behalf of this government and the industry on the manner in which the CDIP program expired. I feel that I have done very good representation to Ottawa, Mr. Speaker, and I will continue to do it. As a matter of fact, today I'm having my staff arrange another meeting for myself and Mr. Epp the first week in July.
Please supplementary.
Mr. Speaker, the point is, Mr. Epp has no power he didn't even know about till the budget came down. You can talk to him all you want. My question is, this committee offered a chance for this minister to make a strong, forceful case to all parties. My question is, besides talking to his buddy, Mr. Epp, why did he not go down there and stand up for Alberta right at that committee, Mr. Speaker?
Mr. Speaker, first let me say that I had a request by a member of that committee, the NDP MP for Northeast Edmonton. I explained to that member, my staff explained to that member, Mr. Speaker, that I do not believe that it is appropriate that I make those representations to Ottawa through the committee. And if this member is suggesting that some NDP member in Northeast Edmonton has more clout than the Minister of Energy, Mines and Resources, I don't believe that, Mr. Speaker.
What an arrogant answer.
Yes.
Mr. Epp went to that committee, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Are you above Minister Epp? You won't even go and stand up for Alberta because of protocol? Is that what you're saying?
Mr. Speaker, the tradition in this country is very straightforward. And that is that ministers meet with other ministers of the Crown for other provinces and the federal government to deal with the problems that face their particular jurisdictions on a one-on-one basis. Now, I cannot, if Mr. Epp had some particular difficulty with his colleagues in the way that the CDIP program was handled, I cannot make an apology for that. I will continue to make my representations. I have in person to Alberta MPs, Mr. Speaker. I again will see Mr. Epp and express my concern and continue to stand up for the industry in this province.
Member for Calgary Northwest, followed by Clover Bar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was pleased to hear the provincial treasurer talking about the glories of investments in Alberta here, because I have some questions about a glass plant he may be interested in. Yesterday we learned that the government has offered $7.5 million in grants to attempt to keep the plant open. This government has made a commitment of $75 million to support the development of infrastructure for 1,300 northern pulp mill jobs. Given that kind of a ratio, the government could be offering $28.6 million to support Dominion Glass. My question is to the Premier. Why is this government placing such a high emphasis on northern pulp mill expansion rather than maintaining an established business in Redcliffe?
Mr. Speaker, first, the honourable member is using a series of statistics and comments that I'm not prepared to accept on his part without looking into it further. He and his party have consistently been so incorrect in their comments to the House that the person should not take any of their allegations as being correct. But, Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Minister of Economic Development and Trade dealt with this matter in some detail yesterday. He negotiated with the company. He may want to add to my reply. There's no question that the government of Alberta offered to do everything possible to help the company maintain their operation, maintain their workforce in the Redcliffe area, and the company made a corporate decision not to do it.
Well, my second question is to the Premier. Why didn't the government get involved earlier in maintaining this business rather than in terms of developing some innovative economic development planning, which you claim you're so good at, including diversification of markets, instead of a last-minute Band-Aid solution?
Thank you, Honourable Member. Let's get rid of it.
Mr. Speaker, we've been involved for quite some time. The previous Minister of Economic Development and the present member from Medicine Hat had been involved when it was still under the corporate structure of Dome Glass. We also have had intensive discussions with the present president of commercial packaging, Mr. Thomas Tinmouth, and we indicated to him by way of a letter, and I talked to him again today to see if there was any possibility of reconsideration of this, but we indicated to him by way of a letter, plus at a meeting that we did have with him on a personal basis some weeks ago, whereby the member from Medicine Hat, the member from Cypress Redcliffe, and myself met with him to leave him with the assurance that we would do everything within our power to see the maintenance of that plant in Redcliffe.
Final.
Well, then the logical question then is, if you've been working with the company for so long, why have you failed to save those jobs for Albertans?
Mr. Speaker, The decision was a corporate decision made because of the consumer preferences that have shifted over the years. If one examines even our milk consumption, at one time it was in bottles, now it's in milk cartons. One looks at the beer consumption, it has shifted to cans. We look at juice consumption, it has shifted to Tetra Pak. Mr. Speaker, there is nothing we would have liked better, and we feel in our own mind that we did not leave a stone unturned as it relates to this issue. Notwithstanding that fact, we're going to continue to work very closely with the two MLAs concerned and community groups to see if we can't attract other industry to that area to offset this job loss situation, because we recognize the seriousness of the problem and we want to work very closely with the community involved.
Member for Clover Bar, followed by Calgary Mountain View, Edmonton Whitemud, Athabasca Lac-La-Biche.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is directed to the Honourable Minister of Career Development and Employment. With the considerable number of initiatives and projects that are occurring throughout Alberta and that are proposed, there will be a requirement for an adequate and a skilled workforce. What role will the government, the Minister's office, play to see that we have a skilled workforce to achieve these projects?
Mr. Speaker, I think first of all, the department obviously has a number of skill-enhancing programs, and it would take a long time to cite those. I'd say for the honourable member's information that the apprenticeship program would probably be most closest to the program that would produce the kind of employees that many of the major construction areas that are coming into the province would need. As well, Mr. Speaker, the government of Alberta has many skilled journeymen within the employment area, and we have now introduced a $2 million program that will see apprentices working within the province.
Mr. Speaker, in 1988 there were 40,000 jobs created. We're looking at 10,000 jobs in the construction for the projects and another 4,000 permanent jobs. Where will that workforce come from? Do we have sufficient people in Alberta?
Mr. Speaker, it is important to note that there will be a number of ministers involved in awareness programs, but in particular, we are going to try to reach a number of the particular communities that have not accessed what we call non-traditional jobs. And we have a large number of women we hope that will be interested, particularly in the apprenticeship area, immigrants, older workers. As a matter of fact, I had a meeting at noon today with a group that works with the over 45 category, and Mr. Speaker, we think that there are a whole host of people who, if made aware of the opportunities available, will look to the apprenticeship and other programs.
Mr. Speaker, in a number of the instances, the projects are very large. They require some very specific new industry. There are some very specific new industries to Alberta, and they will require some very specific employment characteristics. How will the minister address those specialized needs that we might see for those new industries?
Mr. Speaker, once again, I would have to identify a specific program, and I believe I've raised it before in response to possibly the honourable member for Lac-La-Biche and his questions about the various projects in his and other related areas, and as well, I believe the honourable member for Clover Bar will be having a major project. We would see the tailor-made training program is the one, again, that could be best utilized when we talk about a specific geographic area, working with the industry itself, and training the people who are indigenous to that area.
Member for Calgary Mountain View, followed by Edmonton Whitemud.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In recent days, the Minister of Tourism has told this legislature his department used care and diligence before granting public funds towards the cost of a now-defunct chess tournament in Calgary. However, they made a payment as late as May 1989 after it was well known, Mr. Speaker, creditors were not being paid, private backing had not come through, a key organizer was under suspicion because of an NBC documentary, and nothing had been produced or performed by the organizers under the contract since late October 1988, 7 months earlier. What could possibly, Mr. Speaker, have persuaded the minister and his department to commit public funds towards the expenses of this event as late as May of this year.
Mr. Speaker, again, the preamble of the question is very much in doubt and have to take disagreement with it. Very definitely work was done with the City of Calgary and early in January and February with the Canadian Travelers Association, and contracts were put into place, and only after the contracts with the new organization of ACT and did that funds flow in early May.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the tournament was scheduled for July of this year. When it was obvious to everyone else by March or April at the latest of this year that this tournament was going nowhere, what was revealed by this minister's department's investigation that convinced them to throw away public money as late as May of this year?
Mr. Speaker, again, we must reiterate, we had a contract with the proponents, and it wasn't a grant, as we fall into that category quite often. They had produced the agreement, as I said earlier, with the City of Calgary and changed their, who had an agreement with ACT, and by contract our payment was due and payable, and the department decided, with the facts they had at the time, to allow the funds to flow.
Mr. Speaker, if his department did everything right in its investigation, all we have left is a minister. Will he tell the legislature, was it his decision to proceed with the payment as late as May of 1989?
The answer to that, Mr. Speaker, is no.
Member for Edmonton-Whitemud, followed by Athabasca-Lac-La-Biche.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Minister of Environment assured this House that he would reply to questions pertaining to the use of a Crown-owned site as an industrial waste storage site. Mr. Speaker, I realize that the Minister is searching for answers to those questions, but subsequently, Mr. Speaker, I have learned that low-level PCBs were indeed found on Crown-owned land. My question to the Minister of Environment, is he prepared to respond as to what type of contaminants were indeed found on this site?
The chair was indeed informed before question period that the minister was going to supplement the information at the end of question period, so this is fine. Please dismiss it.
I can, Mr. Speaker, do it now or do it later. It doesn't really matter. Do it now. According to the information received from the department, Mr. Speaker, Alberta Environment investigated the site last summer and confirmed indeed the presence of PCBs. The department requested the site be fenced immediately to restrict public access from nearby residents, and apparently that was done. They confirmed that Public Works Supply and Service would be responsible for the site cleanup to Alberta Environment standards. Alberta Environment role is restricted to that of regulator and technical advice relative to the cleanup. Public Works Supply and Services has carried out site characterization through a private contractor. I understand site decontamination and reclamation plans are to be implemented by Public Works Supply and Services to the satisfaction of an Alberta Environment, and I understand that that work is being contracted now, and I think that I would defer to my colleague, the Minister for Public Works Supply and Services, to respond relative to the status of the site cleanup.
Mr. Speaker, to the Minister of Public Works, will the Minister of Public Works respond to the question as to the cost of the cleanup and whose responsibility it is for the cleanup?
Mr. Speaker, last August
when Alberta Environment brought to the attention of Public Works Supply and Services that, in fact, that there were low-level PCBs found on site. And I might point out, Mr. Speaker, that the standard that's used in our country and the standard that's used in the province of Alberta is 5 parts per million in a residential area, and there were a series of samples, and they basically indicated that in 7 samples it was 2.2 parts per million PCB, 1 sample at 4.7 parts per million, and then there were 18 samples taken with non-detectable levels of contaminants within the soils, Mr. Speaker. Last August, 2 small parcels were fenced off. There has been an individual that has been patrolling the area since then. Stanley & Associates was hired as a waste management consultant to deal with this particular matter, Mr. Speaker. And since that time, a series of initiatives have been undertaken. One is the determination of the method of reclamation. Secondly, the determination of the amount of surface soil that would have to be removed. And thirdly, there would be a determination of the detailed reclamation plan. Part of the cost of arriving at a solution would include the cost of a public meeting that will be held later this week in the area, Mr. Speaker. It's anticipated that the total cost to reclaim these 2 small portions of land will be upwards of $1 million, Mr. Speaker. I was made aware of this matter on June 5, Mr. Speaker, and on June 5 directed that the expenditure level of $1 million should be undertaken to deal with this, and work is now underway.
Mr. Speaker, to the Minister of Public Works, is the Minister telling me that this situation has been allowed to go on for almost a year while residential properties are being built adjacent to it, residential properties with children living in those homes, and at the same time no concrete action has been taken up to now prior to the matter being raised in the House to correct this situation?
Sure, I really would ask everybody then to review the blues, because it seems to me in the last minute or two I've outlined at least 6 to 8 to 10 different initiatives that have been underway since August of 1988. And for the member from Edmonton, Whitewood, to stand there and pound his chest and says that this was only dealt with because he all of a sudden stumbled on something is absolutely silly. Second point, Mr. Speaker, that is really important. I've already given the statistics in terms of the level of contaminations, the standard used in Canada, in Alberta, and in the city of Edmonton. And this member knows full well what that standard was, having served in the City Council of the City of Edmonton. The samples that I've outlined, Mr. Speaker, all fall below the standard considered for safety at all. So for the member to suggest that there is any situation of danger to anyone is absolutely misleading and is detrimental, but I think, to the dignity of a member of this Assembly, Mr. Speaker.
Athabasca, Lac La Biche, Calgary, Forest Lawn, Edmonton, Meadowlark, Wainwright, Edmonton, Calder, Westlock, Sturgeon, Edmonton, Beverly, Calgary, Fish Creek, Edmonton, Highlands, and a couple of others on the next page. Perhaps we could speed up the whole process, please.
Mr. Speaker, my question is to the Honourable Minister of Forestry. As the Minister is very well aware, my constituency is within that Canada-Alberta Northern Development boundary, which was established about 15 years ago. This boundary identifies an area that's socially and economically depressed. I have communities within that boundary of 3,000 people that presently face unemployment of 80 to 90%. We have one chance, one opportunity to diversify the economy in our region and be equal with the rest of Alberta. The very projects that the opposition is trying to cancel at this time, and they talk about the welfare trap. My question to the Honourable Minister is, what assurance can he give this Assembly that this project will not be cancelled and will be done within the timeline as planned originally?
Mr. Speaker, our commitment to the development and diversification of the economy in this province is without parallel by anyone, anywhere. And the projects that are approved in northern Alberta now are, of course, each one is subject to an environmental impact assessment process, and we want to be sure that there's an adequate length of time taken to review that. We have taken that time and will continue to do so. We want to see those projects continue, and I support us continuing on that process. I support the work of the Minister of the Environment to work and with all due haste to make sure that we move and don't disadvantage the companies in any way, because we all recognize the importance for job creation in northern Alberta.
Mr. Speaker, my question is to the Minister of Forestry again, the Honourable Minister. What assurance can you give this Assembly that when the forest manager agreements are signed, that local small operators will be involved and considered in the agreement?
Mr. Speaker, in that particular area that the honourable member raises in the Alberta Pacific project, small operators were certainly recognized, and negotiations and working towards a forest management agreement that is not yet signed, but we're working towards, leaves much opportunity for small operators. We want to make sure that they're protected, that their quotas are protected, and that the miscellaneous timber units have been set up so that small operators can grow and thrive in that area and in all areas of Alberta.
My question is directed to the Honourable Minister of Career Development and Employment. Because of the high unemployment rate in my constituency, what assurance can you give me that you look at opening up regional offices in northeast Alberta?
Mr. Speaker, ordinarily we make provision for a committee as I discussed the other day in question period, but I think that given the amount of activity that's potentially in that region, I would certainly have to assess the need for an office.
Member for Calgary Forest Lawn, followed by Edmonton Meadowlark, then Wainwright.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last Friday in this Assembly, the Minister of Energy said that changes in the Alberta Royalty Tax Credit Program are under, and I quote, active consideration. Well, Mr. Speaker, when I questioned his predecessor on the same matter in this Assembly over a year ago, he told me pretty much the same thing, that the government was studying the matter. To the Minister of Energy, given that during the time the government has been studying the matter, hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue have been lost to the provincial treasury, when does the government plan to stop studying and start acting to change the program? What's the Minister's timeline?
Mr. Speaker, the honourable member is stating the absurd when he says that we have lost hundreds of millions of dollars under that program. The Alberta Royalty Tax Credit Program is a very important part of the small producers' cash flow, Mr. Speaker, and we do not want to move in a way that is without consultation. And if the honourable member for Forest Lawn is suggesting that, we don't accept it, Mr. Speaker.
Producers that have been benefiting, Mr. Speaker, to the tunes of hundreds of millions of dollars, not the small producers. My supplementary to the Minister of Energy is that given that last Friday in this Assembly the Minister did not answer my question on how much revenue has been lost to the provincial treasury through bending of the... Well, I'll ask the Minister again the same question. How much money has the provincial treasury lost through bending of the associate ownership rules under the Royalty Tax Credit Program?
Mr. Speaker, I would be pleased to discuss that matter with the honourable member during the discussion of the Department of Energy estimates in this Assembly. Mr. Speaker, I cannot put a price tag on the program that goes back to 1974 at this particular time, but I again, Mr. Speaker, reject any suggestion that this money is somehow lost or frittered away. If that's his belief, Mr. Speaker, then he's not talking to the industry, and I suggest that he should start.
Well, I am talking to the Minister, and I have made some specific suggestions, and I'll make them again. Given that the only specific change to the royalty tax credit program that the Minister's come forward with is moving to a price-sensitive regime, why won't the Minister tell this Assembly that he'll reduce the cap on the Alberta Royalty Tax Credit Program perhaps down to $500,000, and at the same time target that program more effectively to small producers?
Mr. Speaker, I do not recall not alluding to that point in question period last. I can tell the honourable member, though, that I have met with the small producers, I've met with IPAC, and I've met with other members of the industry to talk about the Alberta Royalty Tax Credit Program. Some of the recommendations that have come to me and to my predecessor deal with the ceiling and the percentage of the credit. We'll be taking that under active consideration. I did indicate to the honourable member that I met with IPAC last week, Mr. Speaker. We did discuss those issues. They're on the table. They're part of the recommendation. And in due course, and when we reach something that satisfies both the needs of the small producer and the requirements of this government, we'll be bringing something forward as a recommendation.
Okay. Edmonton Meadowlark.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, pulp mills produce sulfur emissions. A recent study by Dr. Hurlbert of the University of Alberta. It's nice to know that they caught on to that. A recent study by Dr. Hurlbert of the University of Alberta indicates that sulfur emissions are a much more serious health hazard than was originally thought to be the case. To the Minister of the Environment, is the Minister aware that the Athabasca pulp mill will be spewing 8 tons of sulfur equivalents into the air each day?
We're aware, Mr. Speaker, that as a result of the environmental impact assessment documents that were submitted, that the company, Alberta Pacific, is trying to live up to all the environmental standards that are in place today, which, according to our information, are state-of-the-world standards. State-of-the-world standards. And if indeed, through the environmental impact assessment process and the review by the public review committee, the Citizens Committee, it's found to be deficient, then the company will be asked to correct those deficiencies and comply with the standards.
Mr. Speaker, 8 tons is exactly what they talk about in this document, their own document. Why would the minister allow 8 tons of sulfur equivalents to be spewed into the air by this pulp plant when in fact the Energy Resources Conservation Board in this province will allow only 1 ton per day to be spewed into the air by gas plants? How is it that he can say that these are meeting world standards when his own standard for gas plants is in fact higher, considerably higher?
Mr. Speaker, I think the honourable member is mixing apples and oranges and bananas and pears and everything else. There are all kinds of industries. There are all kinds of industries that are not related to the gas and oil industry or to the pulp and paper industry that emit pollutants far in excess of those mentioned by the honourable member. But relative to the particular kind of industry, those standards are deemed to be acceptable under the circumstances. And as I said before, if the standards are not deemed to be acceptable, it will be identified as a deficiency and the company will be required to correct it.
You sound weak. Perhaps the minister can clarify for us now what deemed to be acceptable means to the residents in that area who are going to have to contend with health hazards as inevitable as those suggested by Dr. Hurlbert.
Mr. Speaker, to the honourable member, a Citizens Review Board will be established. That review board will be established with funds, Mr. Speaker, with funds to allow public participation. Through that process, through that public participation process, through that democratic process, if indeed deficiencies are identified and concerns are raised, the company will be requested to address those concerns and correct any deficiencies.
Member for Wainwright, followed by Edmonton Calder.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the chairman of the Alberta Alcohol and Drug Commission. In view of the fact that the provost has been classified as having one of the more serious drug and alcohol problems in the province, and the government has increased the spending by 18.9% to the commission, can the chairman tell me why we are still without a drug and alcohol counselor in Provost?
Mr. Speaker,
Provost and District Community Development Center have made a number of proposals to ADAC over the last number of years with regards to the addition of a counselor in the community. The community has been advised that Provost is on the top of the list when we are able to provide counseling services, and we have addressed this issue a number of times. It will be further addressed during the estimates of the budget when the Minister for Health and ADAC is presented in due course.
Why couldn't the provost be facilitated through the Slim Thorpe Recovery Center in Lloydminster, making use of our volunteers there, as opposed to incurring the extra expense of establishing a regional office there in Provost?
Mr. Speaker, to the honourable member, the request by the Slim Thorpe Centre in Lloydminster has also been made for an additional counsellor to assist Provost with their addictions concern. And again, I would suggest that the member raise some of these concerns during the discussion of the estimates, where they will be discussed completely.
Thank you. Could you then tell me when we could expect funds be made available for our area there?
Not definitively, Mr. Speaker.
Edmonton Calder, followed by Westlock Sturgeon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My questions are to the Minister of Family and Social Services. In the throne speech last year, this government made a promise to enhance the status, dignity, and quality of life for Albertans with disabilities. Yet this government continues to deduct dollar for dollar the Canada Pension Plan disability benefits which have been earned by recipients of the Assured Income for the Severely Handicapped. Last month, the Federal Minister of Health and Welfare reiterated that this benefit was to be passed on to the poorest of the poor. How can this minister justify taking away this money, which is earned and is not the government's money, when people on AISH in Alberta are living below the poverty line?
Mr. Speaker, the member opposite rightfully made reference to this government's commitment to those who are socially disadvantaged and need our help. She's making reference to the AISH program specifically, Mr. Speaker, and it's a program that this government takes a great deal of pride in. It's a unique program here in Canada. We're the only government to have such a program. The province of BC has tried to emulate it, but their benefits, of course, are considerably less generous. The province of Ontario has comparable benefits, but their rules and regulations around it are much more stringent. In reference to the deductions of CPP, Mr. Speaker, it's something that I'm addressing currently with my department. The information that I have been given indicates that quite clearly that for us to do it at this time, we would be in contravention of the Canada Assistance Plan. That would jeopardize some $15 million worth of funding to this province, Mr. Speaker, and I'm just not prepared to take that risk at this time. I'll continue to review it, and if we can get some information from our federal counterparts that clearly states something differently, then I'd be prepared to reassess it at that time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, the federal government is saying just the opposite of what the minister just said. So I suggest that the minister check out his facts. Well, I would say to the minister then, my supplementary question is, will this government keep its promise and enhance and improve the dignity of life for people with disabilities in this province and stop deducting this money?
Mr. Speaker, again, this government keeps all of its promises. And time again, we're able to stand up here and reiterate that in good conscience, Mr. Speaker, because we know that we stand behind our promises. Again, as it relates to the question brought forward by the member opposite, I indicated very clearly that I'm reviewing the situation, that I'm seeking clarification from our federal counterparts, and once I've had that, I'll be able to evaluate it at that time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the minister. Well, given that the minister is reviewing, and we'll have to wait and wait again, will he do at least the proper thing and increase the monthly money that is allowed under the AISH program so that these people do not have to live in poverty?
Well, again, Mr. Speaker, I pointed out earlier that this is probably the most generous program in Canada. We are spending close to $140 million right now, Mr. Speaker, helping close to 16,000 Albertans across this province. We recognize the unique situation that they find themselves in, and we're quite prepared to help them. We've done it through this very unique program, and as I say, we're very proud of it, and it takes a backseat to no one in Canada, and we'll continue to support this program.
West Loch Sturgeon, followed by Edmonton Beverly, Calgary Fish Creek.
Mr. Speaker, it's to the Minister of Environment. Mr. Speaker, the area surrounding Edmonton's 750,000 people, and of course includes my own riding of West Loch Sturgeon, is one of the most productive agricultural areas in the world. Yet the government has allowed the proliferation, Mr. Speaker, of small gas plants in this area, 67 to be exact now, and mounting face of evidence, particularly by Dr. Herbert's evidence this last weekend, that sulfur emissions from these plants do affect one's health. Now, can the Minister of the Environment, in the light of this new knowledge, indicate what steps, if any, he is taking to ensure that the health of the area residents is not being adversely affected by all these plants?
Time for question period has expired. May we have unanimous consent to complete this series of questions? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Minister of the Environment.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the department is constantly monitoring H2S emissions to make sure that those emissions conform with the standards. If there are health problems, those problems are immediately reported and immediately acted upon. I think the honourable member would be interested in knowing that Alberta is, and through the Alberta Environmental Centre at Vegreville, that this province is the leader in H2S technology. As a matter of fact, 70% of the technology that is developed in the world relative to H2S and the emissions and the monitoring of H2S is developed right here in the province of Alberta.
Mr. Speaker, to the Minister, for his knowledge, this is the only province in Canada that produces H2S, so I would hope that they would know something about it. Back to the Minister then, is he aware, though, that in the monitoring that takes place on these gas plants, that his department does not monitor for trace elements, for rare gases, and for carbon dioxide? It's only sulfur that they are monitoring for.
Well, Mr. Speaker, if in fact the information that has been provided by the Honourable Minister is factual information, true information, then I'm sure that we can work with the industry to remedy any situation that may cause him some concern. But as far as my knowledge goes on the matter, and as a result of my briefings from the department, is that our standards are complete in every way, shape, or form. If there are some deficiencies, we'll be very, very happy to deal with them.
Mr. Speaker, that's what we are trying to do, to convince the Minister that his department doesn't know what it's doing, or the Minister doesn't know what he's doing. I would ask the Minister then, in view of this new information, and in view of the fact that over 220 tons of sulfur dioxide, by the way, H2S is not emitted, Mr. Speaker, it is burnt and comes out as sulfur dioxide. Does he know that there's 223 tons a day or more going into the air where 750,000 people are living is now considered dangerous? What is he going to do about it?
The standards, Mr. Speaker, under the Clean Air Act, and the maximum levels are defined through regulation, Mr. Speaker. If you will listen, the ambient standard is 0.01 parts per million per hour average, and as far as I know, there is not one plant in the province exceeding those standards. If there are, then our department will check it down, and we'll make sure that those who are violating correct the situation.
Time for question period has expired. The chair would like to make a brief note of the fact that, again, today we have 6 members